Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 35 of What If Naruto Was Neglected by Everyone. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also go ahead and check out the new episode of What If Naruto was from the two greatest clans and enjoy that guys. I also post a new episode of What If Naruto was a Deceitful God over on Anime King 2, so go ahead and enjoy that as well. And I also post a new episode of What If Naruto is a God Amongst Man, so go ahead and enjoy it as well guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time hearing my voice, and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new, I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin this new episode. Start the intro.
I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their
So, the last spot we left off, Naruto was in the clearing along with Menma and Liz, as Naruto absorbed chakra from all over the world using the moon and combined it with a great portion of his chakra, as he made two small, very small orbs that was infused with so much chakra if they go off, they could level the nation. As Naruto then used his creation and created a dragon, a golden dragon. He then used it again and created a crimson lion, as he implanted the two balls inside of them. Both creatures had 9 tails dangling behind them, as the lion is Mufasa and the dragon is Rize, as Naruto implanted them inside of both Menma and Liz. As they start to hear the tail beast talking in their mind, as Liz was quite pissed off because she didn't like Rize's attitude, as Naruto told her that he modeled it after her attitude. We then had a time skip, as the other nations are on the move, as Menma and Liz were watching as a group of shinobis from all nations were gathering. There was two forces, one ideal force with a stronger presence because they had all of the Kages and some top ninjas there such as Navi and Jiraiya, as the other group came towards the zone, as Naruto had the zone and Kiri in his midst, as he then spread his power along the group, giving them a boost in their power as they felt power coursing through their veins, as they felt unstoppable. As the war began, as the two sides lashed out at each other, while Naruto faced off against the entire group by himself. 200 envoys, all of them surrounded him. Naruto easily made quick work of them, destroying all of them, as he then turned towards Minato and the others, as all of them ready to take him on, as Naruto told them to bow to him, and he would then show them some mercy, but neither of them bowed. They then felt a huge fluctuation of power, as they looked over to see the giant dragon flying in the sky, and looked to see the giant lion, as that shocked all of them, as they couldn't believe their tail beasts, as they had 9 tails flashing behind them, as Naruto turned towards the group in front of him, as all of them were ready to strike. So yeah guys, that was basically the last part we left off. You guys can switch across the page to check out for yourself, so let's start this new episode. Naruto thrust out both of his hands. "Bring it," he said. In an instant, the Raikage lightning swirled around him, appeared above Naruto as he drive down his one hand, as Tsunade was right beside him, her diamond markings spreading all over her body as she brought down her leg in an ox kick. Naruto brought up his two hands as he blocked the attack. The ground underneath him shattered from the force. In an instant, both Narume and Mito appear on his left and right. The both of them pulled back their fists as they were currently in sage mode, as they thrust their arms forward. Jiraiya appeared behind Naruto with the two toads on his back, as he had a Rasengan in his hand. As Kakashi was tearing through the ground rushing towards Naruto, with his lightning blade ready to drive it right through Naruto. Time seemed to slow down there, as Naruto simply opened his eyes. A sudden shockwave blew all of them away, as he sent them all flying away. As Naruto stood there in the center, a massive tornado gust teared through the area and connected with Naruto. As it blew him away, he flipped in mid-air and landed on his feet. The moment he did, he saw the ground as explosive tags were everywhere. Everything went off in a massive explosion that shook the entire area. "He's still in there," one of the sensors said. Minato looked over to his two daughters as they nodded. As Narumi held up her hand, wind style, Rasen Shuriken, she said, as a Rasen Shuriken formed as she held onto it, as Mito went through hand sign, water style, spiraling vortex, she said. As the both of them thrust their attack at the same time, the attacks combined together as there was a terrible spinning vortex that was made from slicing blade of a shuriken as it connected in the center. A massive explosion teared through the entire area that made everyone shield their faces as debris and dust fly everywhere. As it took a minute, Minato looked at the sensor. The man gave a scared nod. As Minato grunted, suddenly a massive gust blew away the wind. As Naruto was standing there, the entire ground around him was destroyed, but the single platform that Naruto was standing on was perfectly fine, as Naruto didn't even have a scratch on him. "Is that all you got?" he asked. "No, it's not," said Kurosaki as she went through hand sign. "Earth style, melting trap," she said. As the ground lifted up like goo, the earth turned into a gooey substance as it came down on Naruto as it started to swallow him whole. It suddenly exploded outwards as Naruto flashed his hand as a few of it got on him. Suddenly, Jiraiya and the two toads were in mid-air as Jiraiya speed through hand sign, as Jiraiya took in a deep breath as he fired off a swirling flame towards Naruto as the two toads let off oil as the oil lit up as the explosion came down, swallowing the entire place in a fiery catalysm. As Minato stood there, waiting. Once the dust cleared, nothing was there. Naruto wasn't even there himself. Minato then felt dread creep into his heart. "So, is that all you have to offer?" Naruto asked, as his back was turned to Minato. As the two ninjas beside him jumped away, Minato quickly spun around the Rasengan in his hand, but Naruto smacked it away, diffusing the jutsu in his hand. As Naruto delivered a palm strike to Minato's stomach, Minato was sent flying back. In an instant, Narumi and Mito came in front of Naruto as they buried their kick straight into his face. But Naruto brought up his hand just in time as their kick made contact, pushing him back a bit. "Wing style, slicing blade," said Temari as she swung her giant fan as the entire ground was rooted up as a tornado from slicing blades crashed into Naruto as it sent him flying away. The right Kage appeared above Naruto as he delivered a powerful punch to Naruto's stomach as Naruto smashed down into the ground with so much force. Tsunade appeared out of nowhere as she drove her infused fist down. The entire ground exploded. "Kamui," said Kakashi as a vortex opened up above Naruto as several rods came down and stabbed down where Naruto was. As everyone stood there. As the sensor looked at Minato, "He's still there," the sensor said. The dust then cleared away as Naruto was lying on the ground, a few of the rods sticking out of him. As, to their surprise, all of the rods then flew out of him as the wounds closed rather quickly in just seconds. "Is that all you have?" Naruto said. "Because if it is, this war is over," he said. Minato clenched his fist tight as a sad yet remorseful look came on his face. He then looked over at his two daughters as they turned to look at him. "What is it, Dad?" they asked. "Do you have a plan?" "I'm sorry," he said. "What are you talking about?" the both of them asked. "Tell your mother I love her. And remember, guys, I always love you," he said. As Jiraiya knew what Minato was going to do, Minato had talked to him. It was the only way. Minato then tore his sleeve as a strange complex seal was on it. He bit his thumb and wiped some of his blood on it as the seal started to glow. He then pulled out a three-pronged kunai. As Narumi started to rush forward, but Jiraiya jumped in front of her. What is he doing? Why are you stopping me? It's the only way. Sorry kid, said Jiraiya. Minato threw the three-pronged kunai, but Naruto caught it. But Minato flashed right in front of him. As Naruto looked Minato dead in the eyes. And he saw not hatred or anger. He saw guilt and sorrow in his eyes. But he couldn't understand why. After all this, has he finally changed? Has he finally realized that he was in the wrong all along? I'm sorry, Naruto, said Minato. As he reached out and touched Naruto right on the chest, Naruto simply looked at him. As he didn't want to kill him here. He wanted to give him a choice to pick between him or Konoha. But what is this feeling, Naruto wondered. As he saw the seal spread on Minato's hand and came on his chest, Naruto quickly moved back. But when he did, there was a very thin blue line coming from him going towards Minato. Minato then went through hand sign as he stopped on a tiger seal. Behind him flared up the Reaper as Naruto saw the dead god who unsheathed his sword. What the hell are you doing? Said Naruto. This will kill the both of us. It's the only way I know to pay for my sins. After what I did to you, I don't intend on you forgiving me. But perhaps in a new life, a new time, you will find it in your heart to forgive me. But for now, all I can say is goodbye, my son. Naruto faced the dead god head on as it pulled his sword. It then thrust forward towards Naruto as Naruto felt his arms go numb as it sliced him right in the stomach. As Naruto felt like his life was dripping out of him. As Naruto looked down to see the dead god hold on to his literal soul. Naruto let out a primal scream as a black aura surrounded him. As his hands moved, Naruto grabbed onto his soul that the dead god was trying to pull away from him. I'm not going to die here, Naruto said. You think I've come this far for you to kill me? He said to him. The dead god looked at Naruto. It had a curious look on its face. A human was defying it. And why couldn't it pull away this boy's soul? That was the contract after all. For taking Minato Namikaze's soul, it must get rid of this boy's soul as well. But it could not pull it away. As Naruto started to struggle and pull it back, the dead god reached out his other hand and gripped it tight. Naruto, Ren's Sharingan started to pulsate with pure power. As Naruto's soul, it was blue and flourished, but now it started to turn black. As it looked very tainted, the dead god looked at Naruto curious. What are you, boy? He said. Someone who's not ready to die yet, Naruto said, as two black tentacles came from Naruto's back. As they thrust towards Minato and grabbed him. They went up to the seal towards his arm as Minato felt a burning pain as his arm was torn off, as blood started to gush out, as his arm was burned to a crisp. The dead god released Naruto's soul, as the link was broken. The dead god looked at Naruto, with a stunned look on his face, as he vanished. As Naruto's soul went back into him and the cut vanished, it was like a spiritual cut, not his real flesh. Naruto stood there, his head lowered to the ground. Minato was quickly taken away. I can't believe you, Naruto whispered. You were willing to sacrifice your life and take me with you for the sake of Konoha again. Because when you look at it, this is what it's all up to. If it wasn't for Konoha, I am sure that you wouldn't be fighting me this hard to protect the other nations. But yet again you choose Konoha over me. Yet again you choose these miserable people that made me suffer all my life over me. Naruto stepped forward as the ground cracked under the weight. As Naruto started to march towards Minato, Kakashi dashed forward with a lightning blade in his hand as he thrust it towards Naruto's chest. But Naruto caught it as the lightning was sparkling off of Naruto, but he held on firm. As a sickening sound was heard as Naruto snapped Kakashi's hand. Kakashi cried out in pain as Naruto grabbed him by the neck as a bone came from Naruto's palm as he dragged it into Kakashi's stomach. The entire group watched as Kakashi disintegrated in front of their eyes. No more playing around. I was wasting my time here with you. I can see now. You always choose that village over me. Why should I give a damn about anything? I am in the sound now. I have people, I have family. Why should I keep on caring about any of you? It's done, Naruto said. As he then looked towards the right Kage, he looked towards Kurosaki. As he looked towards Temari. Bow down, or it's over, he said. Let your village be conquered by me, but it will still be there. Face me in battle, and everything will be over. The three of them looked at him with a stern look on their face. Don't give up, said Tsunade. It doesn't matter if he's strong, we can still take him down. I spared your life back then, leaving you with a wounded stomach. Naruto raised his hand. Come to me, he said. A pull tear Tsunade from Minato as she was healing his arm. She could not stop her body. Minato pulled that three from Kunai with his one arm as he thrust it forward, as he was going to try to flash away with Tsunade, but Naruto simply blinked as the kunai exploded into pieces, making him know where to go. Tsunade came right in front of Naruto before a force, an unseen force crashed her into the ground, with so much force her knees buckled under the weight. As Naruto grabbed her by the face, let's see you heal from this, he said. As his hands started to glow, Tsunade started to scream out in both pain and agony as she could not move her hands. A weight was put in her hands to her side as her face was being melted off right in front of everyone. As her body dropped to the ground, that thud. Jiraiya looked on in shock. Jiraiya boy, don't do anything rash, said the toads. But Jiraiya was too caught up in his feelings and rage, sadness and anger to listen to them. As he took off with tremendous speed, he appeared in front of Naruto with a super massive Rasengan. As he drove it down towards him, Naruto raised his hand as the Rasengan exploded into nothingness. Naruto delivered a brutal kick to Jiraiya's stomach that made him wince over in pain. In an instant, Naruto appeared in front of him. Naruto grabbed the two toads by their head and ripped them from Jiraiya's body. As he smashed the both of them heads together in his palm, dropping their lifeless bodies to the ground. A truth-seeking orb appeared behind Naruto as it moved off with tremendous speed as it slammed into Jiraiya's stomach. The thing teared through his stomach and went inside of him. As his body was pulled up in the air, suddenly his body started to swell up until it exploded as blood and guts rained down. As Naruto stepped forward, looking down at the down form of Minato, who was just in shock, as Narume and Mito couldn't believe what they were seeing, as everyone was scared to move, because everyone that goes up against him just died. Bow down, Naruto said, as he looked towards the three Kages. Temari and Kurosaki felt the pressure as the entire area became tense, as Naruto was releasing a pressure that made them scared. As, in a quick motion, they dropped to their knees, bowing in front of him. The right Kage had too much pride, as he didn't want to go down. Enough of this nonsense, Naruto said. Let me show you that there wasn't a chance for you to win in the first place. Suddenly a black energy erupted from his body as everyone watched as a giant, massive 10 tails formed right in front of them. But it wasn't done there, as the Susanoo armor came around it, giving it a more larger and dangerous look as it opened its mouth wide as a giant ball started to form. And behind it, the 10 truth-seeking orbs formed into a colossal Biju bomb and a giant one at its mouth. Over on the other battlefield, all of the ninjas stopped as they felt the power and they turned to see this giant monster in front of them. Its body, mass, and height put the other two Bijus that they're facing to shame. It was at least 4 times bigger than them, as this thing looked like a monster, a creature that reached up to the heavens. As the ninjas know that that wasn't on their side, most of them dropped their weapons, as they seemed no point in going on. Most of them over here was already dead, and now this thing. As one man started to chuckle, as he fell on the ground, as he lost his mind right there completely. Naruto emerged out of the head of the Susanoo shell, as it was only his upper half. His rest of his body was connected to the 10 tails. Now do you understand, Naruto said, as all of the Biju ball merged in together, creating a supernova Biju ball, that seemed to be the end of the world, as all of them looked up in shock. "For your stubbornness," Naruto said. One of the tails then thrust forward with incredible speed. The right Kage tried to jump out of the way, but a smaller tail came out of the giant one, grabbing him around his waist, pulling him towards a massive beast. As he was thrust inside of the ball, the moment his skin made contact, it was incinerated. "There will be no more cloud," Naruto said, as the giant ball was released. It travels for a mile, as when it hit the ground, the entire world shook from the impact. As Kurosaki and the others look over, that was from the cloud, the direction. "Yes," Naruto said, as the 10 tails slowly vanished along with the Susanoo. As he emerged, "The cloud is no more because of the Raikage's stubbornness. You two are lucky you bowed down before me. If you hadn't, your village would have been gone as well. Now you understand, Minato. There was no winning for you in the first place. I was merely toying with you to see if there was any chance you would give up and pick me over Konoha, but it seems I was wrong. This war is done. You two," Naruto said. He snapped his finger as the both of them saw a wormhole open behind them. "That's your way home. Leave this place," he said to them. As Kurosaki and Temari looked at the others, they were scared. This power was something they cannot imagine. They had to do it as they left. Naruto looked at his two sisters and his father, as he then turned around. "This war is done," he said, as he disappeared in thin air. Narumi and Mito then landed on the ground, as their father's wound was healed by Tsunade, but it was just a stump now. As everyone just got incinerated in front of their eyes. Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi. They came here thinking that they would win this war. They were blowing him back and pushing him off with all kind of power, but he was just holding back against them all. They would have failed if he had went all out in the first place. It was never a real competition. As Narumi started to cry, she didn't know why, but tears were just leaking from her eyes. Same for Mito, but she knew why she was crying. Naruto is going to come to Konoha, and none of them are going to be able to stop him. And he will give them a chance. He will ask them to choose the village or him. What should they do? Should they choose him? Because if they don't, they will all die. Naruto arrived on the other battlefield. As he saw, there was a great portion of ninjas still left, still trying to fight on to the hope and cling on to what they have. Most of them were on the ground dead, and some of them just looked over in shock as they saw him arrive. "You just witnessed power," Naruto said as his voice echoed through the area. "If you still wish to stand and face me, you will die. All of the Kumo ninjas, your home is gone. It has been incinerated. There is no more hope left. The sand and the stone has surrendered themselves to me. Konoha ninjas, you have a chance to go home," Naruto said. "All of you leave now, and you will not die." As Naruto watched the ninjas looked at each other, talking about what to do. "I said leave," his voice echoed through the area, as all of them turned and fled. If this man could not be stopped by the elite group when to kill him with the Kages, how could they stop him? So they all decided to run. There was no point of staying around here, knowing that you're going to die, when you can live to probably fight another day. But to this man, there doesn't look like they will win anytime soon. As Liz and Menma came beside Naruto, as they were out of their Bichu form, as Konan and the Mizukage walked up as well. "So that's it," the Mizukage asked. As Naruto nodded, he then turned towards his group. As he looked at their outfits and he saw dead bodies on the ground from his side, Naruto slammed his hand together as everyone saw a giant creature came out of the ground with a rather large mouth. Green light started to fly out of his mouth, hitting the dead bodies of Kiri and the Soul Ninjas. People who were crying for their loved ones stopped crying in an instant as they saw them getting up from the dead. How was this? As they looked towards their leader, He was really a god after all. They knew that, but now from seeing him bring the dead back to life, this was something else. As the Kiri ninjas glad that they sided with him, or they would be those dead lifeless bodies on the ground of the other nations. It's time we go home. As Naruto turned and walked away. A distance away, far away from Earth. Far, far, far away. On a planet, there was a massive castle. There was a strange aura, and look about this planet. It seemed like it was just luxurious. The place seemed to be made out of gold and all type of wonderful gems. The castle was made out of a diamond-edged gold, as it was quite luxurious. Things that were never ever seen on Earth, as the place was quite strange, the Earthlings remarked. Deep in the castle, in the dead center, there was a giant throne, and there was something sitting on it. You couldn't describe this as a man or a creature, it was just something else, as you could not see its facial features or anything, as it made a slight movement, as it felt something going through the cosmos. Time skip, it was the next day on Earth, as the nations were scared, the civilians were scared. All of their nation went to war, and yet still they couldn't stop one man. They know that there was other ninjas there, but Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto, he was one man, but they failed. Kumo was completely obliterated. The people were having a nice day and then just nothing else. They didn't even have time to be scared. The bomb came and it obliterated everything. The land was scorched as a place had that intense heat that made no one could go anywhere near the place until it settled down. Even now, a day has passed and the place was still bubbling in that intense heat. The people of Konoha was the scariest, as they know that they wronged this devil. They wronged him and look what they turned him into. A monster among mans. And now they're going to pay. As most of them were locked up in their houses, not wanting to come out. Most of them wanted to flee from Konoha because they didn't know what to do now. Because if the Kages could not stop him, what would they do? Temari was at the sand, as she had to inform her village that she pledged allegiance to him because they could not stop him. Well, most of them were on the battlefield, so they understood. As Kurosaki did the same for the stone, as most of them understood already, because the power that boy possessed, it was something out of this world. At Konoha, the streets were rather empty. A few people here and there, because most people were locked up in their house. After hearing what happened yesterday, and after seeing the failure, and even their Hokage lost an arm in the battle, they had to retreat. Everyone had to retreat and return back to their home, because the power that Naruto possessed is beyond anything any of them could comprehend. And they also lost a lot of good names. The two Sanins, Kakashi Hatake, they lost many ninjas on the battlefield. What were they going to do now? Currently, at the house, Narumi was sitting down at the table, along with Mito as well, as the both of them were having a drink. Things were really stressful, as they didn't know how to react to things. Kushina came down the stairs, as she had a tired look on her face. She hasn't been sleeping lately, as she is scared of what to come. And she knows that when he comes here, as they will have to make a choice. What will she do? Mom! Mom! Said Mito, as Kushina finally snapped out of her thoughts and looked towards her daughter. Oh, sorry about that, honey. Were you thinking about him? Asked Mito. As Kushina nodded. Where's your father? She asked. He's currently with the council talking to them. You know that he's coming here, right? Narumi said. Yeah, said Kushina. So what are we gonna do? He told us that he will give us a choice. What should we do? Meanwhile, at the gates, Izumo and Katetsu were standing there, as they were the guards for today. As they have never been so scared watching the gates. After hearing what happened, they didn't went to war, as they weren't fit in that regime. As they were here to protect the village. But now after hearing that one man decimated the kill squad with all of the Kages. They were scared to watch Gates because they believe that he will come here. And when he does, who is going to stop him? Katetsu. Stop worrying so much, said Izumo after seeing the look on his friend's face. Why shouldn't I be worried? None of us are strong like the Kages. But that one man destroyed all of them. So how exactly are we supposed to do anything against him? Well, I don't know. Perhaps something will happen. But as I know now, we are Konoha Shinobis, and we made a pledge to protect and fight for this village, so we will not give up. Is that so? Said a voice that shocked the both of them to their very core. As they slowly turned their heads, as they saw a vortex right there, as slowly Naruto's face emerged from it. The both of them, out of sheer shock, did not know what to do. They did not say anything, they were just standing there in shock, as they were scared to even move. Naruto gave them a small smile. You two, you have never wronged me before. I saw you, never looking at me with disdain or hate. So I will give you a bit of advice. Leave here now. Katetsu looked at his weapons, as his hands were shaking. Izumo then gave him a stern look, to tell him no. Because even if they're fighting for this village, what would they do against him? Naruto said to Katetsu in a shaky voice. What are you here to do? I already told you that a long time ago. When at the Chunin exams, have you forgotten? You told us that you will destroy the village one day. So, you see me here. What exactly do you think I'm gonna do? But you can't. So many lives are here. Are you just gonna wipe them all out? Or are you just gonna make the good suffer for the bad? As you just said, we didn't do you any harm. So you're gonna leave us alive, right? Izumo said. Yes, that's right. So what about the others that didn't do you any harm? What about the kids? The corruption of the parents has passed on into them. What kind of logic is that, Katetsu thought, but he didn't say it in front of Naruto. There has to be another way. Naruto looked at the man in a stern glare as a truth-seeking orb appeared in his hand. There isn't, he said as he flicked his wrist. The truth-seeking orb teared through the village in top speed. It went straight towards the Hokage's monument, as the monument was obliterated within seconds. Hearing the explosion, many ran outside fearing the worst. Was this it? Was this their time? As they looked outside to see debris falling down on the village. But luckily Hokage's monument was not near any houses. Minato was in the council room when he heard the explosion, as he quickly rushed towards the door. As he burst through the door and rushed towards his office. As he quickly arrived at his office, as he looked through his massive windows to see the Hokage mountain. All of the previous Kage's faces obliterated. It's time, he thought. Meanwhile, Naruto walked past Katetsu and Izumo as he stepped into the village. The moment he was spotted, screams could be heard as people were running for their life. All of you stop, Naruto said in a rather low tone, but none of them stopped. I said stop, he screamed on top of his lungs as the people heard his voice. Most of them stopped, but some of them were still running. Naruto released another truth-seeking orb that went up into the sky. It then started to fire off mini orbs out of it that tear through people's skull and their heart. The ones who were running anyway. The ones who remained still. The orbs did not trouble them. The orbs then returned back to normal as it vanished behind Naruto. As the ones who remained still saw the dead bodies of the others, as they were shaking, as all of them turned towards him, as Naruto had a stern look on his face. I'm waiting, he shouted. Suddenly, the remaining ninja forces arrived, along with the rookies, along with his two sisters, and his mother and his father, the clan heads, all of them, as this was the final stance. If he took them all down, Konoha would be done for. As Naruto was surrounded by all of the remaining ninja forces, but they know it wouldn't do much after what they saw were the ones that were out there in the battlefield. Naruto looked towards his mother first. As to her surprise, he gave her a small smile, as she was shocked to see him smiling at her. As Naruto looked around at all the civilians, as he could see a lot of them that torture him. Even some of the ninjas that allow him to be tortured and watch and laugh. It's quite ironic, Naruto said. As Minato glared at Naruto, Naruto, you are here to do this now. Just after the war. I did promise you that I would return, Naruto said. Well, as I was saying, it's quite ironic. Those of you who used to look down on me like I was garbage and scum, but now you're shaking in your boots and fearing what I'm going to do. If I simply erase his hand, as most of the civilians start to scream and panic, he chuckled to himself. Well, it doesn't matter. Naruto then looked at all of them. Before anything, I want to ask why. Why did you put me through such torture? He looked at the council members that day when the villagers wanted to make me suffer. What was going through your head to say yes? You're going to allow them to torture a 6-year-old kid? If you can give me a good answer, I promise you I will not destroy your village. I will leave without even touching a single, one more single here on this village. As Naruto looked towards them, as Hayashi didn't know what to say. None of them knew what to say. Because that day when the elders came to them and Minato that the villagers wanted some revenge for what happened, and they were going through such turmoil as they wanted to make someone pay for what happened to their village and their loved ones that night. But they were truly naive and stupid to allow the villagers to harm a 6-year-old boy. That was a really stupid thing on their part. Because look what they created. They created a monster that you cannot stop. This is all their faults after all. Answer me, Naruto said. None of you have anything to say for why you gave them to go ahead to torture me, to make me pay for my sins, for something I had no control over. I still cannot understand. I was not the one that destroyed the village, yet I was the one that was chosen to pay. Because I had the demon holding back inside of me to protect this village from. That's quite ironic, isn't it? And this is what you did to me, he said. As he squeezed his palm as a light came from it, everyone went on guard. But he thrust his hand up in the air as a small ball went up. The small ball then released a bright light that made all of them saw him. As the 6-year-old Naruto was running for his life. As a numerous of faces started to hunt him down. The people of the village was hunting him. When they caught him, they beat him mercilessly. They stomped on him, they stabbed him with kunais and shurikens. As most of them could only watch in shock of what they did to this little boy. As he was just 6, they were so caught up in their grief and hatred. And they did that to him. As Naruto was on the ground crying after a dose of beating. As Kushina could only watch as tears streamed down from her face. As Mito and Narumi were doing the same, crying as they saw their brother on the ground, crying for help, begging for someone to save him, crying out for his mother, his father, his sisters, but no one came to his aid. As the visions ended. That is what you all did to me, Naruto said. So tell me a good reason why I had to suffer so much. Tell me why, he asked them. As no one said anything because he had no good reasons of what to say. Naruto then looked towards Minato. You tried to kill me back then, by sacrificing your own life. You know, I was just gonna come here and kill everyone, but I was told that you people were still my parents. So Minato, I want to know something. It's up to the village or me. You sacrificed me in the past. I'm going to ask you this question now. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think about it. You should already have the answer in your heart to what you truly desire. Will you forsake this village? Or will you abandon me again? Minato looked Naruto dead in the eyes, as he didn't know what to say. He just looked at Naruto and then looked back at the village. As the 5 seconds passed, a bitter chuckle came from Naruto that had no humor in it. All of that you made me go through, and yet you still chose the village over me. And to everyone's surprise, a tear slipped out of his eye. You chose the village to make me suffer. You put everything above your own son. Your flesh and blood for a village. These people are monsters, worse than even the fox. As Naruto started to cry, it's been a while since I cried. Finally releasing all of my emotions. That's good, Naruto says. He wiped away his tears. He then turned. What say you, Mom? As he stepped forward, all of the ninjas held on to their weapons, but they didn't want to move. As Naruto looked his mother dead in the eye. Are you going to abandon me as well? But then I know that you wanted to do something, but you followed Minato. Stupid ideology. So tell me now, what is it going to be? Kushina looked at her two daughters as she looked back at Naruto. After seeing what the villagers fully did, as she wasn't there for most of it, she hated them. And she would not let her son suffer. As she stepped forward, as she was about to talk, when Naruto snapped his head to the right. Finally found you, said a voice. As Naruto looked up in the air. What the hell? But guys, we'll be ending this episode right here. If you want to see the next part of this, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn that bell notification to stay posted. Remember to share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also go ahead and check out the new episode of What If Naruto was from the two greatest clans, and enjoy that, guys. I also post a brand new episode of What If Naruto was a god amongst man over on Anime King 2. So go ahead and check out that as well, guys. I also post a new episode of What If Naruto is a deceitful god. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy as well, guys. And remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support, guys. And remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying and talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, I'm out for now. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.